this is my choice, and me and God have made it together, and we are walking it out. And if that person signs up, great. If they don't, stop talking. Stop talking. Cut it out. Close your mouth.
Whew, Sister Kellee. I mean, welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, where everyone is deserving of the comeback they're willing to earn. And as we'll get into with today's guest, sometimes that comeback happens with a little help from your friends. So my guest today says, after giving away her best baby-making years to the wrong man, this actress knew it was time to take control of her fertility by freezing her eggs. Since taking ownership of her fertility journey, she has encouraged many along the way to take their fertility seriously. She is now an award-winning fertility advocate and has reframed the egg retrieval process so everyone can celebrate their journey of becoming a mother. Kellee Stewart, welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this. I'm such a fan. I love everything that you're doing, all the work and all the transparency. So I'm really eager to talk with you.
Well, I so appreciate your time. I am a fan for decades. Okay.
Okay.
So I just want to get into this because I'm in the interest of transparency. Today is October 12th, and we are still amidst the actors' strike. So I wanted to get into Kellee's life as an actress, her personal life, but I do understand that there are some parameters that you aren't allowed to say. So can you just give us kind of a synopsis of your journey as an actress?
Oh, certainly. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I studied at Freedom Theater until I went to SUNY Purchase in New York for acting. And after that, I actually became an agent, a modeling agent in New York City. And my assistant at the time was Nico Anand, that you and your audience may lovingly know as Uncle Clifford on P-Valley, the hit show, who's also my god brother. And then we ventured out to Los Angeles to like make our dreams come true. I came first. The first movie that I got was Guess Who with Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher and Zoe Saldana. I played the sister. Are we being audited? I was the little... It was my first film, so to be with Bernie Mac, the legend,
Wow.
it really was a beautiful mission. And from there, I went on to do series like My Boys, and you guys have seen me on Chicago Med. I'm currently on All American, and like you said, there's some parameters to what we can say as striking actors. I'm also a WGA member, so I'm also a writer. So I've been on strike since the beginning of this whole thing, and I do have I can say, it will be streaming on Netflix, and that's basically something new that will be coming out that I'm actually really excited about, from the creators of Hot Tub Time Machine, which was another film that I did, Hot Tub Time Machine 1 and 2. So yeah, we're on strike, and but hopefully we'll be back to work soon.
Well, on this podcast, we stand with the actors, we stand with the writers, we stand with the unions. Just to be clear, there are so many other industries who are striking right now, and people are looking for not only fair, equitable wages, but also there are so many issues involved in terms of AI, the potentially robots taking over for humans. So what exactly are you looking for in terms of the actor strike? Because in terms of WGA, you're no longer striking, correct?
Right. We're no longer striking. We've ratified the WGA deal, which also included more transparency with streaming residuals, with AI protections. When we write, and we have to hand in a deliverable, a script, those scripts are in a certain kind of format. So the AI that was threatening to replace us is actually trained from our scripts. So imagine your work training a machine to replace your job, which is obviously why we are fighting. We're glad that, especially in the actors, that there are cameras and news and CNN and all the different outlets that are reporting on it to give not only strength to our fight, but to everybody out there, as you mentioned, that is part of a union. Every laborer out there needs to be protected fairly and be given a fair wage. So to answer your question more specifically, we are looking for a lot of the same things that the Writers Guild was looking for, but it's different because it is our image that is going to be on the screen that is being challenged by AI. So one of the conversations that was going on was having a background actor sign a contract to scan their image and it be used in perpetuity, even past their death, in any background. So you could be in a movie that takes place in 1963 one day, and they can take your image and put it into a Marvel film the next, including past your death. And what people have to also understand is, in that scenario that I just gave you, that means it cuts out the costume designer, the makeup artist, the hairstylist, because if all we're doing is scanning my image and you're also scanning my new hairstyle, my wardrobe. So we're not just fighting for ourselves, it's our entire industry that's being attacked with this. And the way that they're trying to minimize the least amount of labor possible. So we are in a big fight. And I never really thought that I would see this day, to be honest. I never thought this art form would be attacked in such a way that it doesn't have the value of storytelling and shifting culture and making change the way this art form does.
You know, I think that we all could say it's in some capacity in our lives, or what we've seen with our parents, you know, generation to generation, we never thought we'd see the day that this would happen, that would have our fathers out of work because their labor is no longer needed. We never thought we'd see the day that, you know, pharmacists were walking out because they're not getting not only the pay, but also the support when it comes to things like Walgreens on strike right now. So I think sometimes when we had this conversation, because I do Daily Blast Live, which is a national daytime talk show, and we very much covered the strike and continue to cover the strike. And there's a disconnect sometimes when you talk about Hollywood, because people act as though Hollywood is not just regular people. You know, everyone is a person who has a gift and they deserve to be paid for said gift. So anytime we're talking about strikes in Hollywood, I always want to kind of conflate it a little bit, because it's not apples to apples, but with the idea that a lot of us are fighting for our fair wages. We're fighting for the protections of that which is our own talent and also our intellectual property. So I find the strike and talks of unions to be very much something that everyone can understand when we take out like the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. At the foundation, I feel like it's very much the same.
I agree completely. And I think that because most people with the glitz and the glamour feel like, oh, you're getting paid millions and thousands of dollars. And it's really not that. There is 1% of actors that are in that top echelon range that are getting paid those big wages, but there's 160,000 SAG members, and the majority of us are not getting paid anywhere near, not even a fraction of that. And the reality is we also are commissioned. So our agents, our managers, our lawyers, if we have some, our union dues, all of those types of things are taken away from our checks. So it really, even what you are quoted as an actor for a job, if it's 4 days on a job or if it's 3 weeks on a job, you're really subtracting at least 35% of that, and then including the taxes that will be taken out of your check. So when you really start to add it up, you're having problems buying groceries at the store, or these gas prices here, or paying your rent. You know, I live in Los Angeles. The majority of actors live in Los Angeles or New York City because that's where our industry takes place. If we want to work, we have to be there. But the cost of living is so high that it's becoming almost impossible to buy a home, raise a family, and have some sort of, you know, financial stability. And again, it is not just us. We know that this is a humongous problem in our country itself. We are part of that fight. One of the things as an actor that I was proud of, and particularly as a writer, since we were on strike for over 100 days before they got back to us, was how many, like the animators and how many different people and performers were starting to form unions that didn't have a union pre-strike, and how, again, because the television cameras are on us, other laborers in this country could mobilize and figure out a way to fight their fight. And we stand in solidarity with that, with every laborer out there.
Well, we're hoping that the strike comes to an end in the actors' favor. Obviously, everyone knows and remembers 2020, 2021. This is our debt. Like, what would we have done if we did not have the creativity of those who are striking right now? If we were locked in our homes and weren't able to stream, weren't able to watch television, weren't able to have all of the shows that we know and love with the actors who bring the stories to life. Listen, if you've said anything out of not understanding this strike, I want you to be very, very clear that this strike is necessary to protect those who bring us such joy and light into our lives. So, Kellee, we thank you and we stand with you. So we're hoping that this ends soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I want to move on because I first of all, we met because Dr. Tiffany Jones, who I had on the podcast, yes, a few weeks ago, introduced us, and she just said, "Have you heard of an egg shower?" And I was like, "What? What?" And so then she told me about you, and I started diving into everything you're doing. And I am just so excited to get into this because one of the biggest things that people talk about when it comes to fertility and being very proactive about your fertility journey is the cost. So, first of all, what made you make your fertility journey such a very important issue at the time that you did?
Well, just when you mentioned COVID and being inside, I had actually written a movie called 29 Eggs about my egg freezing journey and sold it to Lifetime Network. And we were all geared up to shoot that film. We had our director, we were ready to go in Canada, and then COVID hit. So my movie, along with everybody else's project, was either shelved or thrown away altogether. And so I started to go online on Instagram and create a Warrior Wednesdays just to continuously talk to the audience that my movie was written for. So, to be honest, I just needed to stay in touch with my story. And when I was doing so, I started interviewing women and men that have gone through struggles with infertility, whether it be from fibroids, endometriosis, blocked fallopian tubes, you name it. And I learned so much about my reproductive health. I learned so much about all of the stories that are out there in this world of the disparities, the health disparities that go on. And it became my mission at that point on my couch in isolation to use my platform to hopefully educate and create a community where people could come together, cry together, laugh together, celebrate together, and mourn together, because the journey of fertility is long.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, and you cannot do it alone. So I became public about it because I kind of had to. I had to. Mm-hmm.
To create the community is so vital because so many people really feel very much alone in this journey. But you said, so you already had 29 eggs. When did you decide to freeze your eggs?
Oh, girl, I was 37 years old. I was in a 7-year relationship with a very fine man. I mean,
Mhm.
dreads down to his waist, and he was Guyanese and gorgeous. He was a dancer from New York. And that man was never going to marry me. He
Mm.
was never going to marry me. And I was that girl that was lying to myself and thinking that, just one more year or just one more, counselor, and we'll get through this. And eventually it ended. And the minute that he left for the last time, because, when you go through
Right.
breakups like that, it's a couple times. And when he left for the last time, and I'm a woman of faith, the door closed and I heard my spirit, which I call God, say, "Go freeze your eggs."
Mm.
Now, it was something that I had been thinking about because I was getting up in age in my late 30s, but it wasn't something I felt necessarily called to because I was hoping that relationship would work out. But the minute that it truly was over, I heard Spirit say, go freeze your eggs. That was on a Sunday afternoon. We were watching the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said earlier, I'm from Philly, so the Eagles won that day. All right. I
Mhm.
just have to put it out there. They won that day. And I remember when he left, I said, God, is that you? Did you just tell me to freeze my eggs? And I said, okay, I'm going to call, my gynecologist tomorrow morning. And if this flows, if this feels easy, if there's no big roadblocks in the way, then I will know it is God, because he will clear the path for me. And I called, and my gynecologist gave me a referral for a fertility doctor and clinic. I called them. They happened to be around the corner from where I live.
Oh,
And I needed to be on my cycle for the first consultation so they could count follicles and things like that.
mhm.
And I happened to be on my cycle. And
Wow.
so I'm calling them on a Monday, and they said, can you be here on Wednesday? And the next thing I knew, the building that I went to was actually across the street from the apartment I lived with him in.
Oh my
The
gosh.
whole time there was all this serendipity. I crossed that building every single day, having no idea there was a fertility clinic inside every single day with him. And I walked in and I just said, I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be here.
Wow.
Mhm.
I keep rubbing my arm because I keep getting chills, which is the truth. And you saying, and spirit, this my studio is a very sacred space. The ancestors join me in here. It's very spiritual. This is really my gift to my particular neighborhood of the culture. And so I want to stop down for a moment and say it is so important to listen to the spirit. It's so important to listen to what you are hearing over and over inside. Maybe you don't hear it the first time. I did not hear it the first time.
Mhm.
But it's important that you do. And the fact that you decided to freeze your eggs is something that I am now so much a champion for, more so that I have the knowledge, because to be quite honest, I didn't have the knowledge before, and I took for granted my fertility and my ability to have a child. And I think a lot of women do. So the fact that you were called so strongly really is a blessing, but it's also a gift because you're sharing your testimony with so many other people. So when you think about from then to now, you've written a script. You hopefully this is going to be something that will be in development soon. And now you have this community. Where, at what point does the I am Kellee, the mom, in terms of what motherhood means to you at this point?
Wow. I question that all the time. So to be completely transparent, when you're on a journey, I'm still single
Mhm.
and I still haven't found that partnership. And so therefore, I've looked at all of the options available to me. Do I go to a sperm donor? Do I adopt? Do I wait because I've preserved my potential fertility? What all of those options are. And I still go back and forth, even being an advocate, winning awards, going to the top of the Empire State Building. I'm still a woman that very much wants to have a child and is still trying to find the path to that. But one of the things that I've gained from this experience is knowing that nurturing and caretaking and giving love is for free. And so, in my own way, I feel like by being an advocate for so many people, I am mothering.
Yeah.
I have interviewed women on Warrior Wednesdays and then watched them get pregnant and have a child. And so God has shown me these previews, and I can either lean into being jealous or upset because why, God, I interviewed her and we had this great conversation and I poured into her and you still haven't changed my circumstance. I can go that route and
Mm.
trust and believe sometimes I do because I'm human. Or I could look at it as this is a preview. This is the assignment right now. People ask me all the time, when are you going to use your eggs? When are you gonna defrost your eggs and use them? And I'm like, if you don't see my eggs already being used, then you're missing it.
Mm,
You're missing it,
yes.
because the work that I do is sacred. And those eggs, they still may be in the freezer in El Segundo, but they have given me a purpose, a mission, a voice, and so many amazing, resilient people that I have met that have been on a journey of fertility and a journey to parenthood. And I can't imagine now using those eggs without doing what I do.
Right. It's interesting because in this space, this is a safe space. And obviously, we're both being very transparent here. And in no other world would I ask, like, and what does motherhood mean? Because that's been something I'm 42, has been, sometimes I'm totally fine to talk about it. And other times I'm like, why are you even, what?
Yes,
Damn. Like,
the
do
triggers.
yes, but at the same time, I was asking about motherhood's meaning because someone said something to me before, like right around the time that I found out that I wasn't going to get pregnant naturally. And she said, "But Erica, you've been a mother all along," and gave me all of these examples that I really felt even moving into the next step of, going through figuring out first being able to get to the STEM process to do IVF. But I had such a peace and surrender about whatever the outcome was going to be because I really felt like, yes, I have been mothering all along. And I just kind of let it go. And that's when things started to flow for me. So I think when we think about motherhood and, the journey, there's just so many different ways that were fulfilled in those roles. And I don't think it has to be the traditional, quote unquote, way that people think it is.
Right, because we create these fantasies for ourselves, and that's okay. We see it on TV, we see it even in our families or our neighborhoods, but we create these fantasies and we think we're going to cross that fertility bridge when we come to it. It's going to happen the way that we've always dreamt it would since we were 7, 8 years old. And then it doesn't.
Mm,
And then it's like, what do I do? And I think what I've learned is to
yeah.
and redefine what motherhood looks like for me, because and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but it's one of the reasons that I named a category that I worked on Evite, parenthood journey, because it's a journey.
Yeah.
So now I learned to pivot and lean in to what my life is saying, because my journey is just as important as that traditional journey.
Mhm.
It's different, but it's just as valuable.
Yeah.
And there's so much to learn and to grow here. And so, to your point, we have both been mothering, even when we didn't know it.
Right.
Because we're on the journey, it puts a spotlight on that non-traditional type of mothering, because now we can look at it and go, oh, I would never have paid attention to the way I mothered my friend over here, or my
Mhm.
nephew or my niece over here, or even my coworker, the way I nurtured or poured into them. I wouldn't have looked at it as a mothering aspect if
Right.
I had already had children. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
we get to appreciate our mothering on this side prior to the babies coming, and then we'll have so much more of an appreciation when they do come.
I love that. I love that. Now, you alluded to Evite, and we're going to get to that in the next segment, so to speak. But before we do, I just would like for you to give your advice to young women who are considering freezing their eggs.
Well, I would absolutely say the first thing to do is to get a fertility diagnostic test. And truly, it doesn't matter what age, and that's to get your AMH and your FSH levels, your hormone levels checked. To even go as far as to go to fertility clinic. One of the things that I went through in my diagnostic is an ultrasound, is a vaginal ultrasound, where I was able to count the follicles and see what they were right on the screen and understand all of that. We are taught sex education in school. We're not taught reproductive health. So if a woman is thinking about freezing her eggs, the other thing that I would encourage to do is tracking your periods, but writing down how long you're on your period. Is it regular? Even what color the blood is, because that's an indication if you may have an underlying condition. And are they super heavy? Are they super painful? If so, that's not normal. And we have normalized heavy and bad periods, said, she just has bad periods, she's staying home from work. That's not normal. That could be a fibroid, that could be adenomyosis. So when you say thinking about freezing your eggs, I'm going to add to it thinking about all of your reproductive health in general, to ask your doctor questions, to bring a health advocate with you to your, annual gynecological appointments. If you write down things in a journal, so that you don't forget to ask, and really figure out what your plan is. Freezing your eggs is, it's not too long of a process, but it does take a little bit of a toll on you, and it is a financial burden on you. But for me, it was nothing that I'll ever regret. And do your research. There's tons out there. Do your research about the best clinics and the best routes to take. But definitely start with getting your fertility diagnostic test so you have an understanding of your ovarian reserve, meaning how many eggs you may have left. That doesn't tell you the quality, but maybe around an average number of quantity. And what women need to know is you are born with as many eggs as you're ever going to have. You do not make more. So how you introduced me, I gave away my best baby making years to the wrong relationship. Do not do that, because those eggs, that biology is all you have if being a mother is what you want to do naturally in your lifetime.
And I just want to add to that, first of all, in terms of the economic burden or stress of that, Dr. Jones suggested resolve.org,
Yes.
which is adds a level of assistance for those who may need it. And I also agree with you in terms of going through the IVF process. It can take a toll on your body. However, I don't regret going through the process, and I've gone through a couple of rounds. I would say, honestly, some of the things, and we touched on this before, when people say that it's hard, that hard is relative. So what's going to be hard to you may not be hard to someone else. I found that not necessarily the hardest thing, but the thing that took the greatest toll on me was actually coming off the meds more than anything else. And that's something that I'm currently coming off of for the second time. But it's interesting because I know it. So it's a lot different than just being in like a depressive state or an imbalance, because you're mentally aware of what's happening. So if it's something that you're like, oh, it could be a physical, it could be a mental, you may be surprised by what it is that resonates with you, or how easy it is, or how much you didn't expect this to happen. So I think it's all a very personal thing. And I really appreciate you sharing your journey with us. You're listening to Comeback with Erica Cobb. We are speaking with actress and fertility advocate, award-winning fertility advocate, Kellee Stewart. So Kellee, tell us about egg showers. Where did this idea come from, and what is it?
Because I have been invited to so many baby showers over the years for my friends, my family, my coworkers, and I love to do it. But what I realized is that when I was going through my egg, freezing process, that nobody threw me a party. I was like, hello, nobody threw me a party. And when I started to do Warrior Wednesdays, it became very evident to me that the majority of the questions that I got was, well, you're an actress, you can afford it. First of all, you don't know my bank account. Second of all, yes, the real problem is insurance needs to cover this, and
Right.
that's the other fight that we have to do. But what I found was that people gave up really quickly. They gave up really quickly, whether they Googled the cost of egg freezing or not. They made an assumption, I can't afford it. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, how much money have I spent on all of my friends and family with baby showers over the years? It's in the tens to twenties of thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And yet when my journey came to be, nobody spent a dime. So I was like, well, you know what? There's baby showers. I'm gonna throw myself an egg shower. How about it?
Mm.
And I did. And my whole family was there. And we had a great time learning about fertility and and asking the questions, what is an egg shower? So an egg shower is a shower similar to a baby shower for someone that is freezing their eggs, preserving their fertility, waiting till later, putting them away to give them the encouragement and even the financial support if needed. It is a way for you to begin your journey by celebrating this brave choice that you're making. So when I did it with my family and it was a huge success, I decided to actually do it publicly. So I partnered with Laurel Fertility Care in California, and I threw a public egg shower. We gave away 2 free egg freezing cycles plus
Wow.
1 year of storage to 2 winners. And it was just a phenomenal way to have all of the education out there as well as celebration. So one of the things I suggest people do is invite your doctor or your clinic to your egg shower, have them answer questions for your friends or your family members, or bring other women that are going through the journey or on their second round of IVF. It's a wonderful way to say, wow, we deserve to be celebrated too. So I
Mm.
threw an egg shower, and I suggest everybody that's going to do this, do it.
You know, it just struck me because some people are listening to this and they're like, I'm so far removed from this, I can't even conceptualize like doing this or how this would work. But when you think about the way that we network for jobs, the way that we network for romantic relationships, there's so many different ways that we network, and we never think about it in terms of networking for our health advocacy or our fertility advocacy. And the truth is, I met and found my doctor because I threw a baby shower for a friend, and the doctor was invited to that baby shower. And I had a amazing conversation with her, and she looked at me and said, I need you in my office like next week. And
Mm.
I really was like, okay, you talk about signs. Like, wow, for that to have worked out, that started my entire fertility journey because she was the first to flag it. So it is important that you network in that way, that you're inviting the people who are going to become your village, because you also never know whose village they can help to start as well. So that's so important. So, okay, you had your egg shower. You threw a big egg shower, gave away 2 full egg retrievals and a year of storage, which is massive. What have you heard from other people who have followed in your footsteps?
Oh, I've heard nothing but good things, thankfully. Even during the strike that we talked about previously, there was some writers that had saved up a little bit of money here or there, not a lot, but said, you know what, I need this time to count for something in my personal life as well.
Mhm.
And would call me and say, can I get a referral for a fertility clinic, and would throw little egg showers at their apartment to raise the rest of the funds to do this for themselves.
Wow.
Sometimes we just need to give ourselves permission to come out of the shadows and think about a thing differently. The baby shower tradition was created in this country in the 1950s after the war and the baby boom era. And
Mm,
I'm a Black woman. So that tradition was not created for me. I'm
right.
clear about that, right? And so it's there to shower the expectant mothers with gifts and encouragement. But as a Black woman in this country, in that time, this was not a tradition that was written down for me to participate in. And so knowing that there are hundreds of millions of people that go through infertility every single year, it's time for tradition to catch up to us, or for
Mm,
us to create our own tradition.
yeah.
And so it's really just changing your mind and giving yourself permission to share your journey, celebrate your journey, be fully present in your journey so that you can look back at this time when or if the baby comes and say, these are the people that were there for me. Because
Mhm.
the reality is, in some cases of infertility, some people may not see that baby shower that we so hope that they will be able to see. But this way, there's an opportunity to say, I did this and I chose it and I chose me and I chose my future and I'm going to fight for it. And we want them to get to that finish line, but let's celebrate the journey, not just the destination.
Right.
So I've had nothing but good reviews from it.
I love it. I love it. I do want to be the voice of a segment of the audience because, as you acknowledged, baby showers were never for us. It wasn't for Black women. So many of the conversations surrounding fertility in general were never for us. But as a result, I know that there's going to be a percentage of my audience who's saying, I have defined the narrative in my head. I am, I am on my journey. I believe in this process, but I have a traditional Black mother, father, grandparent who believes that if it's not done the way that they did it, then it's not a valid way. And that's a conversation that happens in a lot of Black families, in terms of science. So what would you say to people who are struggling explaining their journey and trying to get some of their loved ones on board with the idea that they are going to do the egg retrieval or they're going to go the IVF route?
Well, ideally, we want our loved ones to be cheering us on, but to your point, that may not always be the case. So I think one of the things you have to do on a fertility journey is protect your peace.
Mm.
And you have to know that you have ownership over your body and over your choices, and that if you continuously allow rhetoric in that disagrees with you, your peace and therefore your journey will be disrupted. So everybody actually doesn't need to know.
Mm.
I'm not an advocate for telling everybody my story if I know that that person is going to possibly, even unintentionally, damage my thought process. And the reason that I say unintentionally is when I said earlier, when people ask me, when are you going to use your eggs? The majority of those people, I'd say 99.9%, are women, and they are mothers that ask me when I'm going to do that. So they actually have the result of what I am trying to get.
Mm.
And I always tell them, we as women have to be very, very careful that we're not triggering each other. And don't look at my circumstances, look at my God. That's what I always say. And if God created the science and the doctors and the medications to do this, then for me, this is my faith without works is dead. This is the work.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, my great friend Eloise Drain said this, and she's the founder of Family Inceptions in Atlanta. She's a 6-time egg donor and a 3-time surrogate. And one of the things she says is God and God alone is the only one that can make a baby. With the doctor's assistance, with all of the science, once that embryo is implanted into a hidden place, only God and God alone can bring that baby into the world.
Mm.
And so that would be one of the things I offer. Yes, you may disagree because of a faith-based thing, but understand that if this doesn't work, that was God's plan. If it does work, this is God's plan. But this is my choice, and me and God have made it together, and we are walking it out. And if that person signs up, great. If they don't, stop talking. Stop talking. Cut it out. Close your mouth, because this is your choice, your journey, and your absolute right to build your family the way you see fit and with whom you see fit, or with yourself. It is your right. So close your mouth to those that don't understand you. They're not meant to. God didn't tell it to them. That's fine. He told it to you. Keep it moving. Keep it moving.
Whew, Sister Kellee. I mean, if I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me was a person, I mean,
Period.
shut it down.
Shut it
Oh
down.
man, yes, yes. And I understand exactly what you're saying. I have lived this for quite some time. It also, a lot of people don't think about the scrutiny also when you're married and you don't have children, that raises so many red flags and alarms to people. So I understand. I completely understand what you're saying. And I agree. I've always said since the beginning of me being transparent with my journey that it was my calling to be transparent with my journey, that my journey doesn't have me anymore. It's just a road that I'm on. But I do not suggest that everyone follow in my footsteps, because this is something that's personal, just like your journey, your story, and the way you want to handle it is personal. But let's talk about community, because you recently partnered with Evite to launch Parenthood Journey invitations. Do you think framing this experience as a celebration makes it a lot easier for people? And what is the Parenthood Journey invitation all about?
So the Parenthood Journey invitation was born when I was a guest on the Sherry Show,
Mhm.
talking about the egg shower and how there was no invitation, and I had to create one because they didn't exist. And Evite saw that clip and they answered the call. And
Wow.
we got on the phone and we immediately began talking about what the possibilities were here. And to their credit, to Karen Graham and Olivia Pollock and David Yeom, the CEO, what I will say is it was really important to me that this be a brand new category and not in the baby shower category.
Mm.
For that reason, because when you are on an infertility journey, you're going through rounds of IVF and you're taking that pregnancy test and you're praying and you're waiting, it can be triggering when somebody else is sending you a baby shower invite. So I wanted this to be a safe place, even on their website, for people on the journey to parenthood to go to. And that's however you identify as a female, as a male, however you identify, non-binary. It's a place for you to go and with community and see that your journey is being celebrated. Now, whether you decide to throw an egg shower, an IVF shower, a surrogacy shower, we even have rainbow baby shower invitations, which is pregnancy after loss, because that's a very scary pregnancy for people to have, because they feel like it's going to happen again. And are they doing something wrong to the spirit of the child that was lost? We want to be able to at least invite you to think differently. And that was my main goal. One of the things I said to them on our multiple calls was that not everybody is going to sign up for this. Some people are not going to be in the emotional space for it. And I completely understand that and support that.
Mm.
But if we don't start the conversation and invite ourselves to think differently about the paths to parenthood, then we are still going to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Tradition is given so much dap. I'm a girl from Philly, so I'm just going to say it. Tradition is given a high five all the time. And
Hmm.
yet I can look to my left and my right, in front of me and behind me, and find 2 out of those 3 people that have been in a similar journey to myself or to you. So we actually are in the majority. We just don't talk about it. And that's where the suffering comes. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. I refuse to suffer on my journey to parenthood. I just refuse. I'm going to cry. I'm going to have the pain. That's inevitable. But when I can go online and say, oh, I can throw a party about this, you know what? I'm just going to call my friends because I'm having a bad week,
Yeah.
because I'm having a bad year. And maybe if I'm going to go to my second round of IVF or my third round, now it's time for me to change the way I started. I'm going to start it differently and throw a shower. And by the way, y'all, I threw a public egg shower. I threw a big one in Philadelphia. It doesn't have to be that. It can be 4 people.
Mm.
It can be, at your clinic. You can say, hey, why don't you guys do this for your patients? I would come. I would help you put it together. You don't have to necessarily, and let me add this, it can be a way that someone that is walking through it with you, a friend, a spouse, a coworker, can find a way to support you going through a hard time and say, hey, we just wanted to find a way to celebrate your bravery. So
Mm.
it can be whatever you want it to be. It just, the whole goal for me was to invite people to think differently about these journeys.
Well, a lot of people may be thinking, I may not even have the four friends, but that's when we talk about Warrior Wednesday again. You touched on it earlier, but please tell the people where they can find Warrior Wednesday, what Warrior Wednesday, just remind them of the resource that it truly is.
Warrior Wednesday is my interactive IG show where I go live specifically with people of color because we are underrepresented in the space of fertility. And we talk about reproductive health on every spectrum that there is. I talk to doctors. Tiffany Jones has not been on Warrior Wednesdays, but she's a great friend of mine because I go to a lot of medical conventions and things. But she's been there. Dr. Cindy M. Duke has been there. Even embryologists, the scientist that studies the egg in the lab that meets sperm and creates the embryos, to educate all of us about this process. We talk to patient advocates. We talk to patients going through myomectomies or endometriosis. It is a place for all of us to gather, hold hands, speak our truth, and get on the other side of it at the end of an hour. It is a place where so many people that have been guests on the show have become friends with people that were watching the show.
Mm.
Simply by DMing, your story helped me, or I went through it too, or try this doctor. So to your point of going to the baby shower and meeting your doctor, it is a place of networking as well. And I will say what I'm most proud of for Warrior Wednesdays is whether I'm doing it or whether I'm on a break, it continues. Those text messages, those phone calls, that encouragement of, I see you, sis, they still continue. So Warrior Wednesdays will be back later this fall. I'm moving, y'all. So I'm choosing the date a little bit later, but it'll be later this fall. And I already have some guests lined up and I'm really excited. PCOS, we have some great things to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, well, if you're looking for community, you can find community with Warrior Wednesday. Share with the people your Instagram and where to find Warrior Wednesday.
Sure. It's KStew222, KStew222. It will be on Wednesdays later this fall, starting in November in 2023. I hope you will join us. It's every Wednesday, but also if you want to see past episodes or get more information about Evite or the egg shower and see pictures from my egg shower, you can go to www.warrior-wednesdays with an s.com, warrior-wednesdays.com, and everything's up there.
And also the Parenthood Evite invitations on evite.com. I'm going to say /invite/baby/ or #kids, but you can just put in Parenthood Journey, correct?
Exactly.
Right.
You'll see it all there. Exactly.
Yes. Actress, fertility advocate, Kellee Stewart, who I am now calling a friend. Girl,
Hey,
thank
friend.
you. Yes, as you mentioned, you are moving and you still made the time. And I just appreciate you so much for taking the time to make the time, for giving such amazing resources to my audience, for helping them to find community. And we are with you in your personal journey. We got this, sis.
We got this, sis. Thank you to you, and best of luck on your journey. Now we are friends. We are for real friends. So I'm sending you all of the best vibes as you journey through. I can't wait for the good news.
Oh, thank you so much, Kellee. I really appreciate you. Is there any last message you'd like to leave our comeback community or another place they can find you?
Be your authentic self. And if you are thinking about becoming a parent, and even if you don't know yet whether or not you want to be a parent, please, please look into your reproductive health and know that all of your health matters. And this is one of the places that we have not been taught. So don't feel ignorant if you don't know about how many eggs you have and you didn't know how this works. I didn't know a thing either, but definitely ask the questions and get some answers so that you can plan ahead for your future.
Thank you, Kellee. You can find and follow Kellee Stewart. All of her information is in the show notes, including her Instagram, the Parenthood Evite Invitation, Warrior Wednesdays. All of those links are provided in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast. And of course, you can always go to my online home, comeback.tv. As always, thank you so much for listening.